The stone towers of Halden Manor held the secrets of an ancient, unyielding code, honor above all. Tonight, that code was shattered by the insolence of Elara, the 20-year-old noble daughter whose pride eclipsed her duty. Clad in a magnificent green silk gown, she had publicly mocked her father, Lord Halden, a man of 50 years, and, by extension, the authority of the king and the entire household. Lord Halden's fury was not merely paternal. It was the measured wrath of a magistrate. The correction would be exquisite, targeting not her flesh, but the core of her arrogance. She was an adult, and her punishment would be profoundly psychological, the humility tax. Down in the ancient dungeon, amidst the cold stone and flickering torches, Elara was bound to the bench, her feet exposed. The discipline would be administered by her father, a controlled, precise application of sensation designed to override her intellect and force a visceral surrender of her will. This was an adult lesson in the most fundamental duty, respect. As Lord Halden knelt, his crimson robes pooling around him, the proud dollar, a $20-year-old, watched her defiance evaporate. Knowing her laughter was about to become the instrument of her own profound root education. The Halden Manor was not merely a structure, it was a fortress built on the principle of absolute honor. Within its grand chandelier-lit halls, the very air seemed to hold the weight of generations of noble authority. This authority resided fully in Lord Halden, a formidable man of 50 years, whose deep crimson robes, trimmed in heavy fur, spoke of his unyielding status, his only daughter. Elara, a proud, vibrant woman of 20 years, was the sole potential flaw in this perfect structure. That evening, she was breathtakingly beautiful, dressed in a flowing deep green silk gown, embroidered with golden thread, her long dark hair tumbling over her shoulders. But her beauty was overshadowed by a crippling, relentless arrogance, a habit of sharp, mocking words that frequently tested her father's patience. The evening meal was underway. At the long oak table sat adult guest knights, a household steward, and a family cousin. The scene was one of formal, rigid hierarchy. Elara, the mathbf 20-year-old, sat near the head of the table, lounging with a careless ease that bordered on insolence, her elegant green gown spilling across the bench dot as Lord Halden began to speak of matters of trade and the king's latest decree. Elara interrupted, her voice clear and infused with mocking laughter. "Father," she said, with a sly, dismissive grin, "you repeat the words of the king as though they were philosophical pearls. Yet everyone in this hall knows he is a fool. Why must you echo his foolishness?" The hall went utterly silent. A servant froze, a silver pitcher of ale trembling in his hand. The adult knights exchanged glances of profound shock. Lord Halden's brow furrowed, a slow, dangerous shift. "Daughter," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the heavy silence. "Mind your tongue. You speak not only against your sovereign, but against the very authority of your father. Such insolence dishonors this house." But the mathbf 20-year-old Elara only smirked, leaning back in her silk gown, a glint of genuine mischief in her dark eyes. "Oh, father, must you always preach the doctrine of blind obedience? Perhaps you take yourself too seriously. The king may be a fool, but you—" She paused, letting the silence magnify the impact of her words. "You are too proud to see it." A tangible ripple of shock passed through the adult guests. They bowed their heads, desperate to avoid involvement. The adult servants trembled. Lord Halden's hand tightened around his silver goblet. Never before had her transgression been so absolute, and never before in such public view. "Enough," he thundered, slamming the goblet onto the table. The crash resonated through the hall. "Your tongue has betrayed you, Elara. You will learn the true weight of respect tonight." He rose, his massive crimson robe sweeping the floor. "Steward, take her to the dungeon below. Tonight she will remember precisely her place within the framework of honor." Elara's face went pale, though she quickly tried to mask her sudden, profound fear with a final weak gesture of defiance. The adult steward, a tall man with a somber expression, hesitated only a breath, then obeyed, taking her gently but firmly by the arm. She protested, pulling against his grip, but the command of Lord Halden, the magistrate of honor, was absolute. The adult guests lowered their eyes as Elara was escorted out, her magnificent green silk gown rustling against the stone floor, her delicate satin slippers tapping loudly in the heavy silence. Asterisk, the dungeon beneath Halden Manor was a place of cold, ancient stone, its walls perpetually damp. Torches flickered in their sconces, casting long, dramatic shadows, a perfect stage for a deep, philosophical correction dot. In the center stood a heavy, utilitarian wooden bench, its surface dark and smooth. Iron rings and supple leather straps were already fastened to its sides. Elara, the 20-year-old noblewoman, entered with her chin still raised, a final, fragile attempt at preserving her dignity. Her green silk shimmered softly, a jarring contrast to the grim surroundings. She turned sharply to the steward. "This is absurd. My father cannot mean to treat me, his adult daughter, like a common criminal," she hissed. The steward simply bowed, remaining silent as Lord Halden entered, his authority instantly commanding the chamber. "You shame me, child," Lord Halden said, his voice echoing against the cold stones. "In front of my adult men, my kin, and my household, you mocked the foundations of our honor. A noble adult must be an example of discipline, not a jest. For this calculated cruelty, you shall be taught humility." Her lips curled into a weak snarl, the last flicker of defiance. "And what lesson do you think these stones will teach me, father? Will you have me whipped like a thief?" "No," he replied firmly, moving toward the bench. "For the common criminal, there is the lasha consequence for theft of property. But for my own blood, there is a lesson more fitting, a consequence for the theft of honor and respect. You will not forget this." At his command, two strong, adult servants stepped forward. Elara recoiled, but the torchlight revealed the deep uncertainty in her eyes, the final realization that her will was about to be overridden. Her elegant wrists were drawn gently but securely into the leather straps above her head. Her slender ankles were fastened apart at the end of the bench, leaving her pale. "mathbf, $20-year-old feet exposed to the cool dungeon air," she gasped, struggling against the bonds, the silk gown tightening around her legs. "Father, this is madness. Release me at once. I am an adult." Lord Halden simply shook his head, his expression resolute. "Your pride must be broken, not your body. Tonight, the sound of your own laughter will be the tutor that forces your humility." Asterisk slowly, deliberately, Lord Halden knelt at the foot of the bench. His crimson robes pulled around him like an ancient, weighty tapestry. His hands hovered over her bound feet. Elara's eyes widened, her panic now undisguised. "No, surely not," she stammered, the remnants of her composure dissolving. "Father, this is childish." But the moment his fingers, strong and practiced, brushed lightly across her soul, she jerked violently. A sudden, involuntary burst of laughter, sharp and frantic, escaped her lips against her will. The immediate loss of control was absolute. "Father, stop this at once," she cried, the words breaking into uncontrollable shrieks of laughter as his hands began to move deliberately, meticulously across her sensitive skin, her back arched, her green silk gown shimmering as she writhed and struggled. The stone chamber was instantly filled with the wild, uncontrollable, and deeply humiliating sound of her own laughter. You found respect to be a jest. Elara, Lord Halden stated calmly, his voice steady between her gasps. Then you shall laugh until you beg for its restoration. His fingers methodically traced the highly sensitive arches of her feet, circled her heels, and darted across her exposed toes. He was an artist of consequence, ensuring every sensation was sharp and penetrating. Bypassing her intellectual arrogance entirely, she twisted helplessly, her beautiful dark hair spilling across the dark wood of the bench, her cheeks flushed scarlet with the heat of the involuntary effort. Tears streamed from her eyes, tears of pure physical, hysterical surrender, as the laughter poured relentlessly from her lips. Father, please. I cannot endure it, she cried, her plea an admission of complete defeat. But the nobleman continued, unwavering. Disrespect brings profound shame. Adult pride must bend, or adult pride must break. Minutes dragged on, each second an eternity in the soundscape of her own humiliation. Her proud laughter dissolved first into desperate giggles, then into shuddering sobs. Please, was all she could articulate. Her whole adult body trembled beneath the green silk gown, now damp with sweat and effort dot at last. When her physical and emotional reserves were utterly spent, when her surrender was absolute and genuine, Lord Halden ceased the correction. Rising slowly to his feet, Elara lay collapsed against the bench, her wrists a-trembling in the straps, her chest heaving with the exhaustion of forced surrender. The mathbf $20-year-old, moments before a figure of regal arrogance, was now simply a creature of raw, exposed humanity. The servants unbound her. She instantly curled on the bench, pulling the green silk gown tightly to herself. Her once haughty gaze was entirely gone, replaced by lowered eyes streaked with tears. A figure of profound humility, her father knelt beside her, lifting her chin with gentle fingers that immediate transition back to the guiding adult. "You're my daughter," he said softly, his voice full of the depth of his $50 $50-year-old authority. "But no bloodline is above the law of respect. Learn this lesson, and your adult character will be stronger for it. Forget it, and you will face a consequence far more lasting than mere laughter." She swallowed hard, her voice a barely audible, sincere whisper. "Yes, father. I will remember. I swear it." The aftermath began immediately. She was led from the dungeon, her green silk gown trailing over the cold stone steps. The memory of the wild, shattering laughter echoing from the stone was a perfectly etched, visceral commitment to humility that night. As she lay in her chambers, she didn't focus on the sting, but on the profound clarity of her father's words. Her pride was wounded, but her spirit was tempered. In the days that followed, the change was absolute. At the dining table, she spoke with thoughtful, careful grace. Servants noticed her tone had softened, her replies humble and courteous. The memory of her punishment burned in her cheeks, a perpetual, non-physical consequence, but it successfully shaped her into a wiser, more accountable adult woman. The manor halls would continue to whisper of the night. The noble daughter was taken to the dungeon. But now, the whispers carried the weight of respect. Lord Halden ruled with both firmness and justice, ensuring all adults under his roof understood the true price of honor. The mathbf $20-year-old Elara, now respectful and subdued, never once forgot the night she was tickled into irreversible humility beneath the flickering torches.